Hey folks, I'm going to show you how to install mission control with your own Kubernetes cluster. So for this, I'm going to follow this documentation, and we're going to be using GKE for our Kubernetes cluster. So you should create a standard GKE cluster because Autopilot does not allow webhooks. So we rely on webhooks for a few things, so that's not going to work for us. So you can hit configure, and then I'm going to name this cluster demo. We're going to make it a regional cluster so that we can spread our racks across zones. So now let's head to the pool. So when you provision your instances for mission control, you have to create two separate node pools. So the first one will be named platform. We're going to use three, well, actually one per zone. That's going to be enough for us. So we'll create three nodes. I'm going to use like small instances for the sake of testing, but in the documentation, we have a page around planning your installation and what type of instances you should be using depending on the type of node pool. So here, just for the sake of testing, we'll use E2 medium. And we're going to indicate a label for this node pool so that we can then schedule our pods accordingly. So I'll add the platform role label here. And I'm going to move on and create a second pool, which we'll name database. That's going to host our DSU or Cassandra nodes. So yeah, let's use 3 per zone. So that's going to be good. And then we're going to use slightly beefier instances. So I'm going to go with E2 standard 4. Again, not recommended for production use. You're going to need bigger instances than this, but for testing and staging, it's perfect. Okay, and we're also gonna indicate which role this one has through the role label, and the value will be database. Okay, so we're good to go. This is going to take a few minutes, and then we'll head back and install mission control. Cluster is now fully provisioned, and we can see that it's spreading across 3 zones, so US Central 1, C, B, and F. We'll get back to that later. Right now, we're going to connect to it, so I'll just copy that command line, and this allows me to have the context in my kubeconfig. So now I can check get nodes. Okay, so I have my database nodes and then my platform nodes. So I can proceed with the installation. If you check the installation docs, prepare your environment, Kubernetes. Okay, so you'll see that we need to first install cert manager. It's a prerequisite, so I'm going to do this right now using Helm, but you can also do it using kubectl directly. Ooh, interesting. Let me add the repository then. And let's run the installation command again. Okay, deploy successfully. Let's check if that's the case. So let's get the pods in the cert manager namespace. Everything is up and running. Okay, so if you check back the docs, you'll see that you have some prerequisites. So hopefully, since you're bringing your own Kubernetes, you have kubectl installed, and then you'll need COTS. which is fairly simple to install. Just this command line, and you'll have the COTS kubectl plugin available locally. So let's avoid putting public preview, and we'll roll with the installation command here. So it's going to be kubectl COTS install mission control. And then let's specify a namespace so that the COTS pods don't end up in the default namespace, which is not a great practice. So let's run this. When prompted for it, input an admin password that you're going to use once you connect to the COTS web UI, where we'll perform the remaining of the installation. So COTS is fully installed, so now we're going to head to this URL. So here it's going to ask me for that password that we just gave it, and then you need to upload your license file. So bypass the air-gapped environment page and click here at the bottom, download mission control from the internet. We'll cover air-gap installations in a separate video. So then you land on the mission control configuration screen. So we'll select control plane, because at a minimum you need to have one control plane. And then you can expand the cluster across regions and Kubernetes clusters by registering separate data planes. You'll need to indicate here which object storage you're going to use for metrics and logs. So since we're running in GKE, we'll go with GCS. I already have buckets set up for both my metrics and logs. So here you're just going to paste the JSON of the service account key file. Here you can tune the topology of Mimir. So defaults are good, and you can scale individual services if they don't keep up with the pace. So head down to the object storage section and indicate the name of the bucket. So I'll be using MC Mimir test here. Let me make that bigger. Then you can set the storage retention. So if you want to retain 1 year worth of metrics, then you can configure it like this. And if you're planning for a production deployment or any deployment that's going to have to run for several days at least, click on Tune Attached Storage. In the documentation, we have a reference section that will give you all the explanations about these settings. But one thing you need to note is that for production deployment, your compactor volume size should be 300 gigs at least. And then we'll set the ingester volume size to 100 gigs. And I can show you actually where that information is in the documentation. You can go here to reference and then configuration settings. And we'll search for volume. And here we provide that information. So 10 gigabytes for the alert manager, 300 gigs for the compactor, 50 gigs for the store gateway, and at least 100 gigs for the ingester. Otherwise, they may run out of this space fairly quickly. And since they are deployed as stateful sets, you cannot easily change the volume size afterwards. So let's apply these, so 10 gigs, and I think it was 50 gigs for the store gateway. Okay, Then logs, you can tune the topology of Loki as well, which is simpler because you have reader and writer instances. I'm going to indicate the name of the Loki bucket. You can set the retention as well here and tune the attached storage again. Then we'll enable the web interface and HTTPS. So we enable HTTPS by default for security reasons, but we do it with a self-signed certificate, which means we'll get a warning in the browser. If you want to set up your own HTTPS settings, then turn it off here, and then you can set up an ingress which will use Cert Manager to generate the certificates, and you can use your own root CA there. So we'll enable it, then we'll have static credentials, and I'm gonna customize this. So admin at demo.com, username would be Alex, and you can see here how you can modify the password. So I'm gonna generate my own password for this. Let's call it demo1. Okay, so now what I have to do is copy that part and put it here. You'll note that you can also configure LDAP and OpenID as authentication services. So, but the pre-flight checks run, should be all green, and then you can hit deploy. And we can monitor the deployment here. So I'm gonna watch kubectl get pods dash, and we're gonna monitor what's going on in the mission control namespace. Okay, so you can see that we have some Loki pods that are created. And then we have the Mimir ones, and here we have the mission control operator, CAS operator, Kate-Sandra operator. Everything is starting up. And we also have our UI pod here. So we expose the UI through a node port, so I can check get services in the mission control namespace. And here you see that we have a mission control UI node port that's exposed on port 3880. So you can access that service through all the nodes external IPs in the cluster, or you can port forward it. So that's what I'm gonna do here. So port forward, service mission control UI, and that's on port 8080, and let me indicate the namespace first, and hopefully 8080 isn't used on my machine yet. Yeah, it's good. So now I can access it through localhost. Whoops. And of course, like I mentioned, it's HTTPS, so you get the warning in French here. And there I am. So I think I remember I did something like this, admin at demo.com, and demo1 as password. Okay, and here I can hit accept, and I'm in.
For more information on DataStax Mission Control, just head on out to datastax.com/products/mission control. There you can find all the information you need, including downloads and documentation. Thank you and have a great day.